So today we're going to talk about something called the Business Navigator pattern. And really, it's all about a massive shift in how we think about business intelligence. Moving from just looking at data to actively making decisions with it way faster than we ever thought possible.
This quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It kind of makes you ask yourself, are the tools you're using right now actually helping you become that strategist? Or are they kind of keeping you trapped as an analyst, just reporting on stuff that's already happened? Well, in this explainer, we're going to look at how to bridge that exact gap. All right, so here's the game plan. First, we're going to dig into a problem that I think pretty much everyone will recognize. We're calling it the dashboard dilemma. Then, we'll introduce the navigator pattern as the way out. We'll explore the intelligence layer that makes it all tick, and we'll cover the single most important thing you need to make it work. And then we'll wrap up by looking at what all this means for you and your job and what your very next step could be.
Okay, let's dive right into the core problem here. Look, tools like Tableau and Power BI, they're incredible. They gave us visibility. We can see pretty much everything that's happening in our business with these beautiful charts and graphs. But here's the catch. What they haven't given us is velocity, the sheer speed to actually do something about what we're seeing.
And this is the fundamental disconnect, right? Just because you can see a problem on a dashboard, that is not at all the same thing as solving it. There's this huge, messy gap between spotting an issue and actually implementing a fix. And that gap, that's exactly where companies are bleeding time, money, and their competitive edge.
I'm willing to bet this little timeline here feels painfully familiar to a lot of you. It's 8 a.m. A key metric on the dashboard turns bright red, and the fire drill begins. The first question is always, why? So you export some data to Excel. Then it's, okay, what's the actual root cause? That means a long manual deep dive. Then you got to pull a team together to argue about solutions, which just leads to, more analysis. And then, finally, a decision gets made. But by then, a lot of damage has already been done.
So you add all that up, and what do you get? 90 minutes. A full hour and a half on average. 90 minutes of scrambling and exporting and debating, all while the problem is still out there hurting the business.
But here's the kicker. To actually stay ahead of the game, to maintain that competitive advantage, the business needed that decision made not in 90 minutes, but in 5. That 85-minute gap, that's not just a delay. That is the entire problem we are here to solve.
So, that 85-minute gap, how in the world do we close it? Well, the answer is in the solution. We have to fundamentally shift from being passive viewers of a dashboard to becoming active navigators of the business. And that is the absolute core idea behind the Business Navigator pattern.
Okay, this analogy is just perfect for explaining this. Think about it. Our current dashboards, they're like a GPS app on your phone, but with the navigation turned off. Yeah, it shows you where you are, it shows you the map, it even shows you traffic. But you still have to stare at it and figure out the best way to go. The navigator pattern, that's what happens when you turn the navigation on. It doesn't just show you the problem, it calculates the best route to the solution and gives you turn-by-turn directions.
All right, so how does this magic actually work? The great news is, it's not about ripping out and replacing everything you've already built. It's about adding a brand new, incredibly powerful component right on top of your existing data and metrics. We call it the intelligence layer.
This whole layer is really made up of 6 key parts, all working together perfectly. It all starts with continuous monitoring. It's always watching for problems. The second it finds one, the diagnostic engine kicks in and automatically figures out the root cause. Next up, the prescription engine generates possible solutions based on the evidence. To do that, it uses a tool arsenal of different analyses, and then the orchestration component makes sure the right findings get to the right person. And finally, the execution bridge lets you actually implement that decision, sometimes with just a single click.
Okay, this all sounds amazing, right? Almost too good to be true. And there is one absolutely critical, non-negotiable thing you have to get right to make this work. Because it's not just about cool technology, it's about the quality of the knowledge you feed into it.
And let's be super clear about this. Here's the hard truth. An intelligent system like this can only be as smart as the decision-making processes you already have. It learns from your documented best practices, your business rules, your team's hard-won institutional knowledge. If you don't have that, well, you've just got a machine with no wisdom. And the difference between getting this right and getting it wrong, it is night and day. Without clear documented business rules, the system is basically just a very expensive chatbot. It'll give you generic advice that lacks any real context. But with those rules in place, it becomes an absolute powerhouse. Every single recommendation it makes follows your company's best practices. All that crucial institutional knowledge is captured and preserved. And because it's a system, every decision becomes consistent and totally auditable.
Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about the people side of this, because this is huge. What does this kind of transformation actually mean for the folks who work with data day in and day out? Well, it's nothing short of a complete change in the role of the analyst.
This table really lays it all out. The old school analyst, their job is to report on what happened. The new Business Navigator, their job is to diagnose why it happened. The focus completely shifts from just showing the current state to actually predicting the future state. And here's the most important part. The output changes from just giving people data to giving them actual, actionable decisions. You stop saying, hey, the metric is down 15%, and you start saying, we need to move 5 resources to this product line right now to fix this. It's a total game changer.
So what does this actually get you? What are the real-world results? Well, they're massive. First, speed. Those 90-minute fire drills become 5-minute decisive actions. Second, consistency. Your best practices get applied the right way every single time. Third, scale. You can handle 10 times more decisions without having to grow the team. And maybe the most powerful of all, learning. The system gets exponentially smarter with every single decision it helps you make.
All right, we've covered a lot. The problem, this really powerful solution. So if this new way of thinking resonates with you, you're probably wondering, what's the first step on this journey? Well, it really starts with understanding your specific role in making this happen. Look, this kind of change takes everyone pulling in the same direction. For the analytics teams out there, the call to action is to evolve, move from just reporting to truly navigating. For you business leaders, it's time to start demanding decisions from your teams, not just more data. And for our technology leaders, the focus has to shift from just building infrastructure to building real intelligence that actually makes your people better.
So let's just leave it with this one final thought, because it's really the whole point of everything we've talked about. Seeing the problem is only the first step. Taking the right action at exactly the right time, that is what separates the leaders from the followers.